Brothers and sisters, this is Danny from CatchForChrist.net, and today we're going to be memorizing Ezekiel chapter 34, verse 11. As always, we'll be using the great app, Scripture Typer, the Bible Memory System app that I highly recommend. Please see the first video on this channel's playlist for a more in-depth look at how I use this app and try to get the most out of it. But it's pretty straightforward. So you just hit my verses. I'll just scroll down to my verse of the day collection. Once you get a decent collection of verses, you can start organizing them into different categories and such. So you hit the plus. They kind of changed the layout over the last couple days, which is pretty cool actually, I think. So you hit new verse. You just hit the book, type in the chapter and verse number. You can choose different translations. Import the verse text, and then just hit save and scroll down to wherever the verse is. It's a three-step process. First, you're going to type it, which just entails hitting the first letter of each word, and the word should turn from gray to black. So for this is what the sovereign Lord says, I myself will search for my sheep and look after them. Ezekiel 34:11. I like to do each step at least 3 times. For this is what the sovereign Lord says, I myself will search for my sheep and look after them. Ezekiel 34:11. And I think it's really important to try to recite the verse as you are typing it. So for this is what the sovereign Lord says, I myself will search for my sheep and look after them. Ezekiel 34:11. Then you're going to hit the second step, which is to memorize it. It's going to take away half the words, and now you're essentially filling in the blanks, but you're still going to hit the first letter of each word. So for this is what the sovereign Lord says, I myself will search for my sheep and look after them. Ezekiel 34:11. So when you make a mistake, you just hit retry. When you make a mistake, it'll turn red and buzz, and there'll be a little heat signature the next time you try the verse, so you know where you made a mistake previously. And every other time you memorize it, the second step, it will alternate the half of the words that are visible. So let's see. For this is what the sovereign Lord says, I myself will search for my sheep and look after them. Ezekiel 34:11. And one more time. For this is what the sovereign Lord says, I myself will search for my sheep and look after them. Ezekiel 34:11. So this point, you've recited the verse and typed the verse 6 times. You've heard yourself recite it. You've also read the verse at least 6 times. So by the time you go to the last step, master it, you've been interacting with this verse in many different ways just over the last couple minutes. And at this point, you might even hear your own voice in your head, which is why I like reciting it. So for this is what the sovereign Lord says, I myself will search for my sheep and look after them. Ezekiel 34:11. So once you hit your target accuracy, your accuracy threshold, it'll say, great job, you've mastered this verse. So for me, it's 96%. So anything 96% or higher, I will master the verse. And then my review frequency will be set. It'll say review daily. Now, if I do this, don't want to do that. So if I do this verse tomorrow and get at least 96% accuracy, then it will advance my review frequency to every 2 days and every 3 days and so on and so forth. You can see it goes all the way down to review annually. And it keeps track of all the verses you have to review as well. I like to do each verse at 100% at least 3 times. You really want to ingrain the correct version of the verse in your mind, because you may have been struggling up to this point, and you want to get the 100% accurate version in your head. So for this is what the sovereign Lord says, I myself will search for my sheep and will look. Messed up. Okay. Master it. For this is what the Lord says. It's always the second time, I swear. It's always the second time after you get 100% accuracy. That's like the hardest time to repeat that 100%. So for this is what the sovereign Lord says: I myself will search for my sheep and look after them. Ezekiel 34:11. One more time. For this is what the sovereign Lord says: I myself will search for my sheep and look after them. Ezekiel 34:11. All right, and that's pretty much the whole process. When you hit review at the bottom here, it'll tell you what verses you have coming up. So as you can see, this passage is due in about 24 hours. And it just keeps track of all your verses for you, so you don't have to worry about any of that. All you have to do is just wake up each morning or before you go to bed or at lunchtime and just, knock out a couple verses here and there, and to keep them fresh in your head. And it's a great spiritual discipline, great app. Highly recommend it. So I'll be posting this video on the site, CatchForChrist.net. But thank you for watching the video. Hope you have a great day, and God bless.